What's going on, y'all? We're back, and man, like I said, we gonna work on this consistency thing, and of course there's ample opportunity for me to discuss some things with y'all. I mean, I don't know how much better it can get than this, so we're gonna go right into it. Of course, we're talking NFL head coaches, the carousel, whatever we want to call it, the revolving door. But yeah, there's an awful lot going on with this, and we're gonna have an awful lot with this video, so we're just gonna go ahead, jump right on into it. And interestingly enough, we're gonna start by talking about Mike Tomlin here of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel like a lot of the most interesting things have been said since Saturday, and oddly enough, there's a good chunk of it that's incredibly true, actually, if we really get to breaking it down for everything that it is. But just looking at the bigger picture as a whole, as objectively as humanly possible, it's a great thing that the Steelers have stuck with him for as long as they have. And especially not even just the fact that he's a black head coach, but just the fact that, he actually has given them some significant stability. They just have been lacking in the quarterback area, which I can understand what that's like, at least from a fan perspective or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, he's actually had every season in Pittsburgh be a winning season one way or another. And truth be told, that's not a very easy thing to do. In fact, there are not a lot of coaches that can say that the same way, especially for as long as he's been there. That being said, I mean, other than maybe Bill Belichick, and I guess now we're getting to the point to where we got to throw Andy Reid in that conversation. Honestly, I don't think he had a winning or a losing season out in Philadelphia, but that's a whole other thing. The point I'm wanting to make here is any move away from Tomlin would really be eye-opening. It would be incredibly intriguing, although I kind of get it. Maybe it's time for a new voice in that locker room, but I don't think this is a situation for that. But that's more than what I can say. That's above my pay grade, obviously. Like I said, I'm just here to talk shit the way I do accordingly. But nonetheless, I like to think the Steelers stick with him once they get things figured out, because ultimately I believe Justin Fields overtakes Russell Wilson for the QB1 position out there. But I guess we'll see. I mean, there's a lot that can happen between now and training camp, so who knows. But we'll go ahead and move right along, and we're actually going to talk now about one Ben Johnson, who, interestingly enough, has been linked to the Las Vegas Raiders. I just want to say I don't think that's ideal for either side. I know both sides are like, I fucks with you, let's fucks with each other, blah, blah, blah. I don't think, even though it may seem like it, I don't think the timing's good. You may think, okay, you've got them with a high pick, you are going to be getting a new quarterback in the fold, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And they actually do have some pretty good talented pieces. I think his services are better in Chicago, simply for the fact that you've already got everything ready-made for you. I mean, not that the Raiders can't be competitive, but really and truly, I don't know that he can do for them what he can do for the Bears, just as an example. Now, I don't know necessarily that he would leave the Lions for a division rival, but it would make sense a bit more so in this case, just again, with everything that you have going on, and I feel like he turns that around a lot faster than he does the Raiders. That's just my opinion, but more than anything else, look at the records, the track history for the Raiders and how they've handled their head coaches. I mean, granted, if they could, they'd still have John Gruden there right now. I don't know how that's not being talked about as we speak, for the fact, especially as much as Mark Davis loved him and the contract that he gave him. Oh yeah, and there's the fact that, if I recall correctly, they're still paying Gruden. It just makes a bit more sense to bring him back, but again, that's just me. We'll see what happens there. That being said, we're going to jump right along to the big news, well, one of the big news pieces of the day, and that's the departure of one Mike McCarthy from the Dallas Cowboys. I can't say this is incredibly surprising, but what I find incredibly laughable about this, and this actually is just a thing just because we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, laughable and them just go hand in hand, but that's really a whole other story. What was the point of denying the Chicago Bears permission to talk to him if you knew you weren't going to bring him back? Like, someone needs to make that one make sense, because there's no actual way that that actually makes sense. I mean, I get it. He basically did everything he could there, and if you want to say shit's run its course at this point, fine. I don't particularly have a problem with that. In fact, I'm not going to argue with that, unlike the situation in Pittsburgh. That said, however, again, if you knew you weren't going to keep him, why not let him do the interview with the Bears, which he's inevitably going to do anyway. They want to talk to him just as much as they want to talk to a Ben Johnson. But, of course, it's them and the Saints that are interested. I mean, what was the point of denying any one position? I mean, I get they wanted to try to work things out, but I think they knew all along that this is what was going to happen, and I just find this really, really hilarious. Almost as hilarious as all these little pictures I've been seeing on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, with the whole Photoshop shit of Coach Prime and Shador in Dallas, when there ain't a shot in hell of that even happening. Especially because, again, if Prime does go to the league, he's going to go where Shador is. Right now, as far as I'm concerned, unless something happens, that's going to be Tennessee. So I think a lot of people that keep trying to talk about this, especially the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, as much as I've been a fan of his, y'all need to stop encouraging this shit. For real. Because it just, that ain't it. That ain't it. Now, if they were to somehow get a Ben Johnson, or hell, why not go after, damn it, Aaron Glenn? I don't know why I was about to struggle with that, but Aaron Glenn would make an awful lot more sense, especially with their defense. I mean, and more than that, Aaron Glenn also makes more sense for the Raiders than a Ben Johnson anyway. I'll just leave it at that on that one. We'll get to the final topic on this one, and this actually to me is the big news of the day. Although we've actually had this be the big news of the weekend for the most part, and really the last week and a half, I think. It's official. Mike Vrabel is now the head coach of the New England Patriots. I think we all saw this coming from miles away, or at least when we got wind of the fact that the Patriots let go of Gerard Mayo after one season. There's no shot in hell that we weren't going to wind up getting this at some point. Because if they weren't going to bring back a Belichick or someone along those lines, maybe, I'm struggling with the guy now. He was just the coach over in Miami. Brian Flores. See, God, I hate the way I do that. But anyways, Brian Flores is about the only other name that would have made as much sense. Maybe McDipshit Josh McDaniels. But I don't know. I mean, it's just really, really wild to me how it would have gone any other way other than those three. Especially if you weren't going to keep Mayo around. Now, what I'm hoping for Mayo is that he lands somewhere as a DC and he actually picks up on a lot of the things, learning from a really good head coach. I'd say maybe Detroit or even Minnesota for that matter. I think the Rams would make an awful lot of sense. I don't know how they are with their defensive coordinator situation, but, just things like that. Like, hell, even if he were to say go with whoever the Jets wind up going with, which I'm going to imagine, again, we're thinking maybe Aaron Glenn or someone along those lines there, but in that particular situation, I'd like to think hopefully Mayo is actually coming out of that a little better than he did this one, and in all honesty, he just didn't have the brightest moments that you could possibly have, but I guess it is what it is. Again, big news of the day, Mike Vrabel officially the head coach of the New England Patriots. But that's really all I'm going to have on that one. We'll leave it there for now. Yeah, I really don't have anything else on that. I don't know why I'm acting like I'm trying to, but I will say I am going to have more here in a little bit. I'm just going to get ready to run a quick errand. But yeah, definitely look forward to at least a couple more of these here within the next couple of hours. And with that in mind, y'all know what it is. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think down below. This has been your time with A&J, and I thank you for spending it here.